Hello everyone, welcome to this meeting of the Maidenhead Town Forum. Today's Thursday the 1st of June. My name is Councillor Gert Singh and I will be chairing this meeting. This meeting is being held in person and it's also via Teams. May I remind all attendees that participation in this meeting indicates consent to the audio and video being streamed. And also acknowledgement that after the meeting, the content will continue to be available in the public domain. Firstly, it will be useful if all panel members and officers could introduce themselves so that the public are aware who's attending this meeting and the role that they are undertaking. So my name is Councillor Gert Singh. Then I invite the Vice Chairman. It's already like.
Councillor Helen Taylor, I'm the Vice Chairman for me.
And officers and.
Sorry, just press the microphone. Just tap it.
My name is Robin Bunyan. I'm the Town Manager for Maidenhead.
I'm Councillor Sian Martin, Councillor for Belmont Ward.
Councillor Kashmir Singh, Councillor for Riverside.
Councillor George Shaw, representing Maidenhead Ward.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Adam Burmange, also representing Boyne Hill Ward.
Good evening, Clive Baskerville, representing Pinkish Green Ward.
Lawrence Sellis, Democratic Services and Clerks of this Maidenhead Town Forum.
Thank you very much. And also, I'm aware we've got some residents and non-panel members present. When you do ask questions, if you could just introduce yourselves at the beginning, that'd be great. So, thank you. I request that meeting participants do not speak unless I specifically ask you or invite you to do so. Once you've been invited to speak, before you do so, please state your name and the capacity which you speak in, if appropriate. I will also ask officers to speak at appropriate times. If any individual attempts to disrupt this meeting, I'm able to use my powers in the Constitution to adjourn this meeting or have the individual removed. Hopefully I won't have to do that. We will now start on agenda items. Do we have any apologies for absence, Lawrence?
Yes, Chair, we've got apologies received from Councillor Reynolds and he's substituted by Councillor Burmange.
Thank you. Any more?
That's all the apologies. That's all the apologies, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any members have declarations of interest to declare? Thank you. The minutes of the last meeting. Can we confirm those minutes? Those of us who were there. Confirm. Thank you. Boom. Okay. So agenda item number 4. Maidenhead Town update, and that's going to be our Town Centre Manager, Robin Bunyan. Robin, what have you got for us?
Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is okay. New faces, lovely to meet you all. Hello, thank you for coming. My name's Robin. Can I just add that I've had an email from Ian Brazier-Dubber. He's waiting for a link for the meeting. He's just literally emailed now. My name's Robin. I'm the Town Manager for Maidenhead, those of you who I haven't met. So my role is to support our business community as well as our residents to make Maidenhead a wonderful place to live, work and visit. I produce reports monthly looking at high street footfall and vacancy rate and what's been going on. And I'm kind of happy to answer questions. If I don't know the answer, which may well be, I'm always happy to get that sent over to me and I can do my digging. But no, I am, for those that don't know, I am have been a Maidenhead resident forever. born and raised here. I went to Woodward Secondary School. And I worked at Northern Farm Centre for the Arts for the last 10 years. I've been at the borough for 18 months. So I've worked within Maidenhead a lot. I know a lot of the community groups and engage like that. So I'll give you some updates in case you haven't seen my latest report, which covers April. So we have just hit June. So figures come out on a monthly basis. Our car parking team provide those. We currently have 2 footfall counter providers. One of those is Springboard, which is a static footfall counter and will be remaining in place for another year. And we now have a subscription with a company called Visitor Insights, which is a geolocation. So we're able to see a picture of footfall with a much wider network rather than our static camera. But the data for April covers our Springboard camera. So, and that is a static square on the high street that counts people in and out. So certainly not seeing how people are moving around the town centre. But in April, our monthly report showed us that we had a total number of visitors to Maidenhead of 464,000. And the busiest day of the month was Saturday the 22nd of April, which coincided with, does anyone know? It coincided with the Maidenhead Waterways Fun Day. So a really nice example of a community event taking place in the town centre and ultimately boosting footfall and the economy. And that footfall, I think, is really important to say is the event didn't take place on the high street. So what we see from there is that people were enjoying this end of the town and the event, but also making their way up and down the high street using other facilities, hopefully the market and our shopping retail. As of April, Maidenhead, in comparison to 2019, and it's a bit of a strange one because we still harking on a little bit about the pre-COVID world. I think we're now in the post-COVID world, but we are still using 2019 as our pre-COVID comparison because we are still recovering, really. Yes, we've come out a bit, but things have changed. So 2019 to 2013 is our comparison for this. And Maidenhead in April was 2.4% down year on year in footfall. So not bad. Not bad at all. In comparison to the southeast, which is still showing as 11.9% down, Maidenhead is actually in quite a good position based on our static camera. Our best footfall is Thursday to Saturday weekly. That coincides with our produce market and our weekend trade, where we see most of the animation taking place on the high street. So we have our produce market, which is Thursday to Saturday. I hope you're all enjoying lunches and various things there. But we also have specialist markets taking place on the high street, so the vegan market, community events, etc. Let me scroll through this. Car parking usage. Now, I report the figures of car parking usage and the changes year on year. I am literally just reporting those figures to be able to put them into comparison against the wider set of data that I'm comparing here. So if there are wider questions about car parking, obviously I would kind of want to go them to go back to the car parking team. But in terms of the data, in April, there were 49,855 car parking visits in that month. Now, it is down. It is down, but parking has changed. So we see that in comparison to 2019, which in our pack, I don't know if it was printed in colour, which is a downfall of my graph there, but the top line on the graph is the representation of 2019's parking, so our pre-pandemic parking, and we're currently the fourth line down on the graph, which is now tracking the third line down on the graph, and the third line down is last year. So our car parking is tracking. Does that make sense, that explanation? I never knew I relied on a colour key so much. I'll have to think about that for future. So looking at that parking, I just want to pull up another set of figures which kind of gives me a little bit more data. Obviously, we do have a car park closed at the moment, but I think it's really important to state that there is capacity for parking within the town centre. At any given time, at a peak time, there is 45% capacity for parking, free capacity in Hines Meadow car park. We have seen a lot of parking move to Hines Meadow. For example, year on year, Hines Meadow, in comparison to last year, is 25.6% up. So we have seen a lot of our parking move to that car park. In total, across our car parks, which include the Braywick Leisure Centre, Grove Road, Hines Meadow, Stafferton Way, not the Nicholson Centre at the moment, West Street and Vickers Way, parking across Maidenhead is actually only 4.4% down. So we have seen a transfer of a lot of that parking from the Broadway Nicholson's car park to our other provisions. Now we are seeing that there is demand for our surface level car parks, so Grove Road and West Street. We know that they are continually turning traffic over, but we are actively promoting that Hines Meadow is an available space for parking, and there is parking there at peak time, around 45% parking. The residents discount, which currently runs through the Ringo app, was used 1,533 times in April, and that now includes Hines Meadow car park as well. So that residents discount has been extended to that car park. That is up, that usage is up, and we have seen that residents discount steadily increasing usage. I have got a chart for that, I'm sure. Might need to pull that out and share that with you separately, but we have seen that increasing, and the majority of those days, 1,200 of those days, are residents accessing the discount for the hour. But yes, to give you that update, 4.4% down, a positive note on considering the closure of the Broadway car park, with Hines Meadow usage up 35% year on year. What I was keen to kind of also let you know as well is that Hines Meadow for the month of April made up 48% of all parking usage. So we have kind of got a clearer idea of what space is being used. 45% of that space, so nearly half of our parking activity is being seen in Hines Meadow. I think it's also important to note that within those parking figures, we're not taking into account the permit holders, which are also using our car parks. So those numbers are not recorded on our parking instances. So they don't go through the parking machine. So that kind of helps us. We're working to get that data clearer at the moment to give us a clearer picture of exactly the usage. But know that we're 4.4% down. There is potential there because we are seeing anecdotally more people coming back to the office and more permits being used. We should see that move up. By now, I would hope that all of our lovely new councillors and anyone visiting us today is following the Make Maidenhead brand on Facebook and Instagram. It's the place to find out what is happening in and around Maidenhead for our residents. And is really, really well engaged, actually. As of April, our Facebook page has 6,686 followers and our Instagram page has 1,700. So we get a really nice, clear breakdown of the demographic of those engaging with Make Maidenhead, and as laid out in the deck that we handed out. In April, the Make Maidenhead Facebook reach was 5,925. Now that's an organic reach, no paid advertising took place in April. And that's a 10% increase on the previous month as shown in the chart. I have continued to host the Where Can I Park campaign, a soft touch user-friendly campaign, I may say. Basically splitting up all of our car parks and highlighting what's nearby them and whether or not it's the best place to park. For example, Hines Meadow, on that slide, we've got what's nearby: Baked, Feeling Good, Goyles, Presto Pizza and Sports Direct. If you're not going to those places, you might want to try one of our other car parks. That program, that campaign has been really, really well engaged with our community, and continues to be engaged with. Our April highlights for the month were the the Rotary Club Easter Fun Day and the Maidenhead Waterways Fun Day. As I mentioned, that event gave us the best footfall of the month, which is fantastic. And there are lots of other upcoming events. That is an overview of what is in the report. I'd like to let you know about some of the activity which is also happening in my world. So I'm currently undertaking an audit, review and update of our wayfinding, which is around the town centre, the riverside and the Greenway. So you may have noticed that we're in a period and are continuing to be in a period of regeneration, so quite a lot is changing. And with that, you may also notice that things like the finger posts, which are around the town, say Magnet Leisure Centre this way, or a map might be wrong. So I'm conscious that we are doing ourselves a disservice by having that incorrect information out there, and engaging with wayfinding specialists for us to be able to audit, update and review what we're doing so that we can enhance and improve it, and also make sure people know what we've got going on. So that is in process at the moment, and we're able to do that through some funding from the UK SPF funding as well, which is really fantastic. Last week, we launched the Maidenhead Town Team Initiative, which saw a group of fantastic, here's one of my town team crew, thanks for coming, because you're only here for that. And we were able to get about 40 people together at my work spot, which is a fantastic collaborative working space, to discuss making Maidenhead a better place to live, work and visit. And I think the outcome of that initial meeting was a lot of positivity and a lot of ideas for how we can enhance the look and feel, look at the events which we are hosting, and how as a community we can bring back some town pride. There was a huge amount of information to go through following those conversations and our big sheets of paper and our whiteboard wall, which is currently all being distilled down to a selection of quick wins, so things that we can get our community out there and doing. Slightly bigger projects that might take a little bit more time to get off the ground, but are certainly doable, and things that we know as a town team we might not necessarily be able to address ourselves, but are worth having a conversation with councillors and officers to see how we progress those things. Anyone is welcome to be involved in the town team, and you know, the more the merrier in my opinion. The town team is an initiative which is seed funded by UK SPF funding for 3 years. So there is a pot of money in year 1, year 2 and year 3, and we are looking as well to see if we can roll that out to other villages. But the initial meeting was really very, very positive, and it was just a wonderful vibe. And I turned a frown into a smile by the end of it. So what can I say? Another large-scale project which is happening in Maidenhead as well, which has also been rolled out in Windsor previously. So Windsor has completed and launched, but Maidenhead will be having access able guides completed for 25 venues around the town. Now we're working with a company called Access Able. They are fantastic, look them up, and they do accessibility guides that visitors can look at in advance of visits to an area, so that they can be prepared rather than coming up against brick walls. The guides are created in a really nice way to be able to kind of work with venues to not score them or tell them what they're doing wrong, but it is for the user experience to make sure that we're really open and honest about how accessible our town is, and hopefully highlight some accessibility issues that we might find along the way. So we've got 25 venues which are going to be taking part in that. And that doesn't include as well our parks, our waterways, our car parks, our train stations, our bus stops, various things like that. So they're on top of that. So our 25 venues are kind of all signing up at the moment. And the idea is that we will be able to have a launch of Access Able in Maidenhead by the end of the year. And that is also happening in Ascot as well at the same time. I think that's everything that I have to say at the moment. I've talked to you about the car parking figures and the capacity. You'll have seen some signage going up been up for a while now at Broadway Car Park, promoting shopping local, promoting alternative parking and promoting our produce market. That's part of our Where Can I Park campaign. It's just adding a bit more visibility for people. And hopefully you will have noticed as you were driving in and around Maidenhead that the VMS boards, which are at junctions coming into the town centre, are now updated. We are working as hard as possible to support businesses within the high street, the wider town, and of course the shopping centre. The shopping centre is open as usual, and our VMS boards now show that that is. So it's clearer that the car park is currently closed. We are showing alternative parking, but also making sure that our residents and visitors understand that we're still open for business. Any questions?
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Robin.
My pleasure.
Very, very good, detailed presentation. Let me open the floor up. Any questions from anyone? Councillor Baskerville.
Thank you. I just noticed on the end of the programme here, it mentions about Maidenhead Library and 50th anniversary celebrations. When does that start, and are you aware of any of the celebrations that are on offer?
Hello, yes. So that's one of our upcoming events. So Maidenhead Library celebrates its 50th anniversary this year in July. And I have it on very good authority, because I've seen the programme, that there are some absolutely fantastic events planned. Author talks, a silent disco in the library, yes, and real celebrations. They are also incorporating the 50th anniversary of the library with the 50th anniversary of the Wombles, which was news to me, I must admit, but it's a dual celebration. So there are events running throughout from the 21st of July, I think it is, and they will be using Library Square and the amphitheatre for events. But there'll be more coming out about that in the next couple of weeks, and the library service will be promoting big time, as will Maidenhead.
Thank you. Councillor Bermange.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a quick question about the town team. So it's a great initiative. You know, we're very keen to, as much community engagement as we can get. I'm just wondering, in terms of the focus, is it more looking at the long term, or is it trying to deal with, fairly sort of short-term issues? So I'm thinking, particularly about the fact that, of course, as you've said, we're in a period of regeneration. It's going to take, a number of years, that process, and we want to have as vibrant a town centre as we possibly can during that period. I think, I'm hoping that, the focus will be on that, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
I think there's two parts to it, really. So from the ideas, as I mentioned, we're kind of distilling our quick wins, be that some planting projects or events that we'd like to do. And then there is kind of ongoing projects. And I think it's important to see, so that we have the town team and its kind of pot of money here, and it's community engagement and making sure that it's our community coming together to see that themselves can do something in the town. And I think also it's really interesting to, if I just note that the people that we had there represent Maidenhead now, the really incredible group of people, and new faces, old faces, brand new residents, people that have chosen Maidenhead as their home, young, old, multicultural, fantastic. And this is a group of people who I hope that we can kind of keep together for the long term, to be able to continue to do those kind of smaller things that are achievable for a group of volunteers ultimately. On the other side of that, we have the Maidenhead Town Partnership, which runs with support from local developers and key partners that put money into a pot to be able to deliver larger projects and bigger things, basically. So with the two of those running alongside each other, I would hope that we are able to look at some kind of bigger scale things. I think on both of those projects, the town team and the town partnership, I think it's really important to note though, that there are things that we can influence and there are things that we can determine and do. Of course, there are lots of kind of bigger pieces that of course we would just like to click our fingers and it's done. But we need to be able to use our influence as a community, as the town partnership, to be able to drive some ideas rather than actually getting out there.
Thank you for that. Councillor Martin.
Yeah, just a small point. I think Access Able is a really good idea. Is there a way that could be tied into shop mobility? In addition to that, is there anything further ahead with shop mobility having a permanent home?
So Access Able will be working with shop mobility to kind of make sure that we're doing the right things in terms of for them, and we will also, as part of that launch, be promoting the accessible guides to shop mobility, to their kind of suite of information, to be able to say you're a visitor, you're going to use our service, and here's some handy extra guides just in case. That's probably as far as we can push that relationship. In terms of shop mobility, I don't have an update on that. I know that they are still at home in the Nicholson Centre, and the service is being used. So I don't have updated stats about usage. Ian, my boy Ian up there, he might be able to give us an update on that, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so Access Able will be something that we're tying into as many organisations as possible, just to make sure it's out there.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. One of them I think you've just answered, because I was going to say it's great to hear there's capacity in the other car parks, but there are people who won't use those car parks because they're not able to. It's too far. Obviously, Broadway was very convenient. And the other thing that it occurs to me that obviously when we used to park in Broadway, you'd walk through into the Nicholson Centre. So footfall has been lost there, which we know. But is the same happening with Hines Meadow? People are parking in the Hines Meadow, coming straight down to Sainsbury's and saying, I can buy my pharmaceutical items here, I can buy homewares here, I've got no need to go to the high street. So is that something else that's happening that we're maybe not aware of? And I now have, remember you're a womble stuck in my head. Thank you for that.
So I'm just logging back into my computer so I can get some information up to answer that. I think without a doubt we have seen a change in people's journeys around the town centre. That I think is driven by obviously the car park usage, but also the way that the town is changing. We have got a lot of new areas that are to be explored. You know, just outside here, we've got a new kind of leisure area that is very popular. I don't know if anyone has been to Hoppy Place or Need, but I do recommend them as a one joint trip. And we're also seeing that with Waterside Quarter as well. A lot of our footfall is moving towards that end of town. The high street footfall in one whole is pretty much holding its own. We are seeing some dips, but we are also seeing that as a town centre on the whole, footfall is moving around. So we know that obviously the entrance through the Broadway car park, up the ramp into the shopping centre and into the Queen's Square there, that's obviously at 0% footfall because that is literally closed. But they are still seeing people coming in and out, but without a doubt, footfall is down. I think for me, with our visitor insights data, because that is we are no longer looking at, or we are kind of looking at it, but comparing it against our previous Springboard data, as I said, was that square on the high street. So we kind of only got a clear picture of who was on the high street, and if they crossed that square, they were a number. With visitor insights, what we're able to do is zoom out and see how the town is being used in a different way. And we are getting a clearer understanding of what areas are being used, and we do see spikes at different points of the week. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Just a quick cast your mind back to when Broadway closed. Now, it's obviously a hot potato at the moment and everyone is desperate for an update. I have spoken to the lead member tonight who's assured me it's one of his top priorities. But I remember when it first closed, we had a discussion at Maidenhead Town Forum around if the car park was closed for quite some time, could we look at, I think we mentioned a shuttle bus or something, or some kind of help for people who weren't able to make that journey by foot to get them from the outer car parks in. Do you know if any discussions were ever had about that?
Not in I haven't had those discussions, no. I think they're probably going to be conversations for the transport team and also the parking team to see what those options are. You know, as we know, a lot of our parking has transferred to other car parks. We are seeing that, as always, our surface level car parks are our most popular. They always will be. Everyone loves a surface level car park, and they are turning over. I am obviously continually concerned about those with mobility issues and those unable to make that change to Hines Meadow. We have got issues with that, but at the moment the solution hasn't been found. But I think it is worth a further conversation to make us get that right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any more questions from anyone? Councillor Douglas.
Councillor Jack Douglas, representing St Mary's. Just a quick one, I think. You mentioned the signposting, the signs, the out-of-date signage. This morning I was with a resident and he happened to point out one pointing to a magnet. So it's great to hear something's happening, but I can go back to him. Have you got a rough idea of a timescale I can go back to him with? And just a follow-up question on that too, before he also pointed out we've got some very posh-looking signage in the town centre, the tall signs with the maps on
the
glass
monoliths,
front.
yeah.
And he pointed out one of those on Morbridge Road that's been broken. He said for 5 years or something like that. Does the funding you've got for the updates to the signage also cover repairs to existing signage?
Well, your resident will be thrilled. Yes, so our finger posts, our signpost, our wall-mounted signage and our monoliths are all part of our wayfinding strategy. So everything to do with that in the town centre, at the riverside and on the Greenway is being audited. So everything is going to be updated, and I can't tell you how thrilled I am about it. The monoliths that you mentioned, we've got eight or 10 of those around the area. And for me, and I'm pretty certain that every single one of us will have walked past them and could not tell me one scrap of information which is on either side of them. And for me, that's something that is representative of how our wayfinding is being used. So we know that Maidenhead is used predominantly by our residents. So we're looking at making sure that our monolith maps are simplified. You know, if you're standing at a monolith map, it's probably likely you know where Marks and Spencer's is. But looking about how we can kind of expand those out to showcase our green spaces perhaps, or our leisure facilities and our leisure areas. But also you'll notice that they're two-sided. So one side is what you probably saw was a pretty crumpled up, sad looking map inside one of them. And on the other side, we have some history panels. So the idea is that our second side panels will be interspersed with information about what is happening in the town and how residents can get involved. Maybe there'll be some information about the town team projects. Maybe there'll be information about the produce market or a speciality event. So just to be able to have that information as interchangeable information, so it changes, so you don't become blind to it. And it's actually useful for the people that are walking by it. But yeah, it's all being done. And timescale, that was your question, thank you. Timescale, I have actually, just in the last couple of days, had conversations with 5 providers to look at who can help us do this. Because of the funding, It needs to be spent by the March 24, but I'm committed to getting it done sooner, getting that ball rolling, so that, you know, information that's out of date is not out there much longer than it needs to be, really. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Yeah, so before I go to Councillor Shaw, also, when you're doing that, you're going to change the bins as well, because there's a lot of the bins are in a terrible state as well around the town centre.
Bins, unfortunately, don't fall under my remit. I wish they did, because I do have some problems with the bins as well. But yes, so they are with the waste team, and we do have a specific bin design. So we're looking to get some more of those kind of identified, the problems, and either fixed or back with the team. Yeah.
Thank you, Bob. And also the as well as the bins, when you're doing this, I mean, a lot of the things that the issues I pick up in around town is there's a lot of clutter with the street furniture, and there was an example sort of over on York Road where there's about 7 or 8 signs on one post, and it was like half of them were redundant. Are you going to be looking at decluttering as well at the same time?
If they are wayfinding signage, then yes. If it comes down to kind of highway signage or anything to do with parking or enforcement and things like that, there's probably some sort of legality with those signs being there. So I'm not best equipped to answer that. I think the best thing to do would be if you can send me an image of that signage, at least then I can have the visual to kind of say, oh, I can do something about that, or no, I know which team can have a look at that, and do we actually need all of that? Yeah. I am conscious that our town is probably not looking as happy as it should do, and there is work to do, and I am committed to making sure that the look and feel of the town is something we want to be a place where people want to hang out. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Councillor Shaw.
I'm just interested to know, with the new source of data for footfall, will demographic information be taken for that? Because I'm getting concerns from more elderly residents that vertical car parking disproportionately would affect them. So knowing what their habits and things would be quite interesting to know.
Within Visitor Insights, deep dive demographic data is a paid extra, quite an expensive paid extra, which we haven't committed to at the moment. So we have a 3-year commitment with Visitor Insights. The data that we are getting is far superior to anything I think we've ever had before. So I feel quite happy about that, but it's not able to give us that kind of deep dive demographic data. We do, however, have an Economic Growth Development Officer, Saloni, who is the data queen and is really digging into the demographic of our area, so that just because we haven't got the data on that set, it may well be that we do have the data somewhere else. So it may be worth a wider conversation to look at the data set there to see if it's actually pulling out what you would like, what you'd like to see, and how we can use that to influence change. But if you'd like to get in touch, I'd be happy to put you in touch with Saloni.
Thank you. Councillor Beaumarch.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just another question about this new data set as well. I'm just conscious, obviously, that the the town centre is becoming more residential in nature, and it'd be quite it would be really interesting to understand how residents who live within the town centre are using the retail offering, etc. If they're using it, and how that compares to those coming in. I'm wondering if these new insights will actually be able to differentiate and give us a bit of information on that.
Well, I can say really smugly that they can. And every time I look at it, I get very excited. I do like data, but this programme has made me like data even more. So it runs off a really clever algorithm to be able to look at pings and where they're kind of sitting. So we kind of know who our home workers are and who our commuters are and things like that. We're also able to kind of look at a ping's shared visits. So, if we have got someone in this area of the town and then they are visiting Marks and Spencer's Feeling Good and Source and Flower, we can get an idea of their journey and the sectors which are in the town that are doing well. And with that, on Visitor Insights, the arduous but thrilling job, like it was fantastic, of blocking out every single unit that we have in the map, so that on my Visitor Insights map, I can click on a particular unit and see how that is faring in terms of visits, shared visits. It has a sector assigned to it, so we can see how our independent sector, for example, is performing. So we can really go down kind of to that data. Now, it's really important for me to say, because obviously we have members of the public with us, this is really clean data. This isn't snooping, this isn't spying. One of my first questions before we got in touch with any of these companies is, should we be doing this? It's really clean data. There is nothing that can tell us an individual's data. There's no way I could tell who people are. It just really helps us with GPS data to be able to see movement of people. So it's really clean, it's really safe, and the information which is coming out of it is really exciting.
Any more questions? No? Okay. I think that's everything then. Thank you very much, Robin, for attending this Maidenhead Town Forum. Cheers.
Fortunately.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And lovely to meet you, new councillors. I hope to see you all some more. Fantastic.
Yes. Okay. So I think we move on to the next agenda item, and that's going to be agenda item number 5. Actually, no, before we do that one, we've got a supplementary agenda item. So we've got an update from the RBWM property company. So we've got Ian Double Brazier here, who's attending online via Zoom.
Yep.
Okay. Hi there, Ian. How are you doing?
Good evening, Chairman. Hope you're well. And good evening, everybody else. Hope you can all hear me clearly and also see me clearly.
Yes. For those of you who don't know, Ian is the managing director of the RBWM property company. Plays a very, very important role within the structure of RBWM and responsible for all matters property related. So, Ian, you have the floor. If you'd like to update us on what you're up to. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Good evening, everybody. I say welcome to the reconstituted and renewed forum. Hopefully it's a place where we can all discuss matters within reason, subject to some caveats, which I might come to in a minute, but we'll see. This evening, so as Councillor Singh has kindly outlined, I am the Managing Director of the property company. And just to reiterate, if anybody missed one of the briefings or hasn't had one of the briefings recently, the property company is a wholly owned company of the borough. So it's limited, and its work is carried out is on behalf of the borough, and that encompasses both property services, and this is where there's a slight bit of confusion because we manage the property services team. We provide asset management for all the corporate assets and commercial assets of the borough, and also we then manage the development partnerships that we have with companies like Carla Homes and Countryside Homes, and we're involved with some of the other regeneration projects, mostly focused around Maidenhead at the moment, but in the future, who knows, they might well be focused around Ascot and also Windsor, but going forward. So this evening, really, I think obviously it's quite fair to say that a lot of people are fairly interested in the first instance in the Broadway car park. I appreciate there's been a lot of interest in that. Obviously, as Robin has highlighted, the Broadway car park remains closed and will do for the foreseeable future. What we have been doing, and we continue to do in this period, is we've been carrying out a range of further inspections with a detailed technical working team that's been established to look at the project management of the car park process and what we do with the car park in and around. And that technical work and additional work, and also looking at the costings around car park and what the right appropriate outcome for the car park is, will be brought together. We're working quite hard, and I think we were talking to Simon Werner, the new leader of the council, with a view to try and bring forward a cabinet paper in the midsummer period, so we can actually make sure that everybody has time to discuss the strategy around the car park. Obviously review the costings, the approach, and then get to a decision so a firm decision can be made and implemented quickly around the car park. So that process is likely to take us through to towards the end of July for that report. And then obviously as that, the key recommendation as it is at the moment is that the car park is at the end of its economic life and has been for a number of years. And the balance of cost in terms of repair are outweighed by the lesser cost of demolition and the replacement of a surface car park, at least once that has been demolished, or potential possibility of building a temporary small level car park on the site. And that's part of that consideration we have to undertake. And that piece of work is ongoing at the moment. It's quite frustrating for everybody, and I appreciate that, but unfortunately we do have two things. We have quite a difficult site to deal with because obviously it's surrounded by the Broadway, which has the hub construction to the south of the site ongoing at the moment. We have King Street to the west, and then obviously the back of Brock Lane and Queen Street to the east. Plus, obviously, the northern side of the car park is literally 2 meters within the boundary of the backside of the Nicholson Centre. So there's a lot of work we have to just unpick technically to make sure that we can maintain a safe process should we fully take forward a recommendation for a demolition and working on that process. So at this point in time, for the car park itself, we hope to bring forward a report as in a timely fashion for council to consider, and also cabinet in the first case to consider in July. That probably leads on neatly, or is adjunct to the other concern relating to Broadway and shop mobility, as is the moment. So the property company and the asset management team working on behalf of the borough and the other teams in the borough, for instance, like the parking management team and some of the highways team, to actually look at what we can do for the relocation and how we bring that forward as well. So the key identified location is West Street at the moment for that, and that is to utilise part of West Street to reprovide a similar facility for shop mobility at that site. And the reason that West Street has been identified is in all ease and terms for people with a range of different disabilities and movement. It is the flattest, safest, protected zone to be able to get back into the high street to the key stores required for access. We have had a very quick look at a new number of other locations, including Hines Meadow, but the navigation for people with those needs is very, very difficult through the multi-storey car park and use of lifts and ramps. So what we need to ensure is we've got a correct level open facility to get to West Street. So the work we're doing at the moment is we're completing a small study regarding to any changes that are required for access on the highway and pavement from West Street. The technical assessment of the ensuring that there's both drainage, electricity and services to be able to connect to the modular provision of changing spaces, holding spaces and charging spaces for all the equipment that will be required. Because as everybody is aware who knows anything about shop mobility, obviously on the ground floor of the Broadway car park, there are 4 or 5 quite old porta cabins that are provided there, provision still. So we're looking at what the best way is to bring forward a measure that we can put in place for at least 3 years to 5 years, whilst the outcome of the considerations for the Nicholson Centre have undertaken. And we hope to be able to get full approval for that project towards the end of the summer, August, September, and then implement that project to bring that forward to ensure that shop mobility will have a good, solid location to support people's needs and their needs over the winter and going forward into next year on that basis. At this juncture, I will say this: I'm not going to really talk very much more about the Nicholson Centre redevelopment, and that's purely on the basis that obviously that project is subject to 2 judicial reviews at this point in time, and I don't think it would be necessarily circumspect in the circumstances in which to comment much further, other than the fact that procedure is still ongoing, and I understand that there's likely to be a hearing with regards to that matter for the actual summer holidays, maybe towards the end of July. But if you don't mind, I'm happy to leave it there on that basis. Looking around Maidenhead, as Robin's highlighting, nobody can see there is a significant amount of change happening at the moment. And change from a development perspective is always either welcomed or not welcomed, but also has an impact on all those citizens and users of the town centre. Currently, obviously, there is two other sort of major considerations in development terms. One is obviously on behalf of the borough, we have managed the Countryside Joint Venture Development, which is a range of sites that are owned by the borough and have been brought forward and developed. The first of which is York Road Phase 1, which is outside your windows in the town hall, which has been completed, with the final landscaping works on the Library Square being completed at this moment in time, and hopefully should be ready towards the end for official completion and opening in August, in time to help fit in with the library celebrations, 50-year library celebrations. And also, as part of that joint venture, Countryside continued to progress development on the former Magnet Leisure Centre sites, where they're currently building the first phase of 351 residential units, 20% of which are affordable homes. And those affordable homes have been agreed to be sold to Abbury, who obviously are one of the large affordable housing providers in the borough. The other is obviously Maidenhead Housing Solutions. And from our work with the developer, Countryside, we understand that progress is doing well. They're quite well advanced in their programme, but obviously we will remain in touch with them and keep residents occupied and up to date on those matters. They're currently going through a phase of where they actually are finalising the dig for their basement, and obviously will be then starting piling works over the summer. And obviously we are keen to ensure that they stay and communicate with all the local communities around the site, given the fact that piling by its very nature is quite a disruptive and quite a noisy activity. And ensure they have the right environmental constraints in place that are sitting within the planning consent to ensure they monitor dust, noise, traffic on that basis and ensure that works. So that scheme will progress, and we understand from Countryside that they will be looking to complete the affordable homes fairly early in September 2024, and also then we'll be looking to launch off plan, as they say, in the development trade, maybe a first phase of residential sales in later autumn of 2024. But the remaining period of time for sales will continue through 24, 25 and then into early 2026. And if they then progress from there, they'll then move through eventually from 2026 through to the development of the 10-pin bowling site in the future. But that is a future phase in which to be drawn down. So that's where Countryside are. That is their key focus at the moment, and there's not much else work going on with the Countryside joint venture. Obviously, the other major sort of allocation for development is obviously Southwest Maidenhead, AL15. Obviously, there's been a couple of planning applications submitted and a planning consent granted for that. One is the Berkeley scheme south of Harvest Hill Lane. I think understand Taylor Wimpey have their planning application in for the site next door to theirs. And as yet, the development partner for the borough, Carla Holmes, has to submit its planning application. And as we do not have quite a clear understanding just yet, we understood it was pending or is coming, but we have no clear quite understanding just at this point in time when a planning application might be forthcoming on that site. But obviously, once that comes forward and we understand what there is, we'll happily share the information around that and the process that might go through in that point in time. So quite a brief comment for me tonight, but I'm happy to answer questions where possible and answer any matters that arise from anything I've just said, if possible.
Thank you very much for that, that overview there, Ian. Really appreciate that. Have we got any questions from any members of the public or any members? Yes, please. Yeah, you can take the mic.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Angela Clark, Chair of the Disability and Inclusion Forum. Ian, you mentioned that you'll be seeking approval in September for the shop mobility space in West Street car park. Assuming that approval is given for that, Could you give a time frame when shop mobility will be functioning in West Street, please?
Yeah, fine. Yes, so so we have to get obviously approval for the expenditure to actually ensure that we can afford to build the right process. What we are looking at is a fairly simple approach, is to use modular pre-constructed units similar to the porta cabins, but better and much more robust to provide the facilities. We are hoping through that process to eliminate time and delivery to ensure we can be up and running. There'll be somewhere between a 12-week to 16-week implementation process to ensure that we can get it up and running with that. So about 3 months post approval. So from September, that we'd hope to have it up and running by November at the latest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Angela. Any other questions here? Oh, Councillor Hunt, you're online. Hello.
Hello, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to speak. Yes, I've just got a question regarding the magnet site. Ian mentioned 351 homes being built there with piling and the noise. Now, I'm a bit concerned because there are houses around that site, and this is going to be, you know, one big noise for going on to get 351 houses built. Even if it's flats, it's still got to be built, and the piling goes down. Is there any other way that you could do this, i.e. the normal way with footings, digging footings, rather than the piling? I'm wondering what the benefit is for piling as opposed to digging footings.
Well, thank you, Councillor Hunt. So through the planning application process, the developer decided that, and to enable them to meet the parking requirements that are part of the borough's parking standards and to help service the site, as part of their development process through the planning application, they identified the fact they would dig a basement to provide both parking, storage, waste management and building facilities. So for quite a long time, it's been in the public realm via the public planning application to do so. And given the range and distribution of massing and heights and densities of some of the units, piling is a relatively traditional way to ensure that you build both a substantial protection for piling, for a basement, but also enough bearing load to support the height of the buildings that are going above them. Through the planning process, obviously, they have to submit a construction management plan, which will have been submitted as part of that process, and that will include a range of monitoring activities, one of them being noise and dust, and they will have a significant number of limits on the times in which they can indulge in piling as a result. So obviously environmental health and the environmental health team will be watching that, and building control also monitoring that process, I'm sure, to ensure that, you know, within reason, you know, from sort of beyond 8:30 in the morning, not beyond later than 4:30 in the afternoon during weekdays, that no one does. The piling is it is noisy, you're quite right, but it is a process that they will follow through in one go. So we hope that, I think their programme was suggesting that by Christmas at the latest, they will have done all the heavy piling work. So that will be done, and then they'll be building from there on, hopefully in a much more peaceable way.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Thank you for that, Ian. Any more questions for Ian? Councillor Bermage.
Thank you. Good evening, Ian.
Evening.
So a quick question regarding the countryside partnership on and centred around York Road, and essentially, I've sort of lost track of. There was a number of sort of commitments have been made about the various phases and what may or may not be going ahead, and I can't remember what were sort of, let's say, council firm commitments and what may have been sort of more discussion during the election campaign. So I just wanted, if you might be able to,
that's fine. No, I'm happy to clarify that for everybody.
Thank you.
So the way the relationship with the developer works is there is an overall arching agreement with regarding the use of the corporate assets of the borough for development purposes, and as and when sites are deemed to be vacant and or the developer has a proposal for those sites, they have to do an initial design scheme to bring those forward. So in the York Road area, the 3 sites that were included in the framework master agreement for the development partnership were York Road phase 1 and 2, which is the buildings immediately south of the town hall forming Library Square. Then phases 2 and 3, the phase 2 site is a small site at the corner of York Road adjacent to the former Desborough Bowl site on the stream, which I think was formerly the Maidenhead Community Centre and latterly known as the RVS site, or the Edward VII site. So it's a very small piece of land next to the large chestnut tree. That site is currently just being cleared and is not currently under a development proposal by Countryside. The third site is part of the phase 3 element of the York Road was and still is identified as being the Grove Street car park. Now, if I sort of work backward from there, obviously the Grove Street car park remains a very important asset to the borough, and also has become even more so with the closure of the Broadway car park. So that remains key centrally as a function of the town centre as a car park and will remain so going forward. Similarly, further details and changes through building regulations, fire regulations, and in terms of the accessibility and timing for phase 2, the site adjacent to the river on York Road and the crossing, won't come forward either at this point in time either, because of the constraints now. For example, at the time when planning consent was granted in hybrid for that site, it's a 9-storey building with a single core. Now, because of the building regulations, that would require a 2-core escape stair, fire protected, additional lifts, additional parking, and also the build cost side of the equation, as we know, for everybody's cost of living and build costs have gone through the roof. So it's unviable to develop it on this point in time. So it provides an opportunity eventually going forward to think about those assets and how they can be used in a different way potentially.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any more questions? Councillor Taylor.
Hi Ian, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm really pleased to hear that we're further down the road with relocating shop mobility, and it's really good to hear we're thinking ahead on 3 to 5 year kind of thing. I've just got a quick question. Looking at West Street car park, you mentioned that obviously you need to get the expenditure approved, etc. I may be jumping the gun asking this question, so I do apologise. But the expenditure, is that just going to be like the modular components that you're putting in, or are you looking at maybe if some of the pavements need improvement for accessibility and signage, etc., within that initial expenditure?
So the expenditure will have to cover all costs as you identify. So we'll have to spend some money on probably widening, flattening and reprofiling some of the pavement and the curb lines in technical terms on the road. We also have to identify where we can bring 3-phase electrical power to support the charging of mobility scooters, etc. from, and power the actual units themselves. Need to find where we can connect to foul sewage and bring fresh water to the site to make sure that we've got washing facilities and changing facilities, and also the physical changes to how we deal with the relocation of parking spaces as a consequence of using part of the site for shop mobility. So it'll be a round whole project figure to deliver both the shop mobility fit out, as it were, and changes to the whole car park, and a rearrangement of a number of the parking bays in the West Street car park to ensure that it's still some parking spaces there in the right way, because obviously we'll have to move some stuff around to make sure it all functions, both in both for focus and primary focus on shop mobility, but also traffic management terms for the residual amount of parking that be left on site. So yeah, it'll be a holistic figure for the whole lot.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Chair.
Any more questions from anyone? No? Okay. Thank you very much then, Ian. Really appreciate you coming in and giving us your input.
Thank you. and thank you, and thank you for meeting you all, and I'm sure I'll see more of you soon as well. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Take care. Good evening.
Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Now that just brings me on to the fifth item on the agenda. So what I'm looking for is suggestions for future forums. You know, what I'm trying to do here as part of the Maidenhead Town Forum and as chairman is to open up the forum so we can increase resident engagement and councillors. So it's important that residents are involved, because what would happen is we can have officers here present and answering questions and concerns that residents have. And what you will have as residents will have a direct line of communication with senior officers and councillors, so you can raise points and concerns, and what ideas that we can form from the Maidenhead Town Forum will possibly help shape policy and the direction of travel for the council going forward. So if I'd like to open the floor up if any suggestions. I think Vice Chairman Councillor Taylor has a few suggestions there, so I'm going to pass you over to you, Helen.
Thank you, Chair. I've been looking at the Constitution and what the purpose is for these area forums, and there's a lot that we can do that we currently don't do. So I would like to explore the possibility of expanding what we do here. In the Constitution, it states the area forums will provide a means whereby the council can consult with local communities and potentially devolve some decision making. The area forums are given the power to spend money as delegated by cabinet resolution, to direct neighbourhood budget expenditure in unparished areas, and to send reports with recommendations to cabinet. Now, I have briefly spoken to the lead member for finance about this, and she has confirmed that yes, we can have a budget, but obviously we would have to ensure that there is money there. But I was thinking we could start small and maybe get a small budget, find out if we can get a small budget and have a project, maybe planters in the town centre, get residents involved, see what they want to see happening in the town centre. I think we've got a really good opportunity to expand what we do here, engage further with residents and actually get people involved in the town centre, because looking at social media, everybody wants to, you know, to help. People are trying to be positive. Yes, there is negativity out there, but you know, the residents want to see some change. So I would be really open to maybe having a discussion at the next meeting with relevant officers to see what we can do to slightly change the function and make this a bit more resident-led and an area forum. We are unparished. We don't see any, you know, money that goes from council tax to the unparished pot. Maybe there is something there that we can, you know, grab a budget and get some of these things done.
Thank you. That's a good idea. Lots of input there. Lawrence, if you can make a note of these points, and we can.
Yes, I'm making note of these points, Chair. The suggestions you have made, Vice Chair, Councillor Taylor. I would need to check. Sorry, I'll need to check with governance to ensure like they're feasible to implement. So I'll look into that.
We can take it offline and come back with a response.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Was there any other suggestions that you had there, Councillor Taylor?
I have got a list, but do you want to open it up?
Yeah, go on then. Okay, let's go. Let's go around the table. Councillor Baskerville.
Well, I mentioned one before the meeting started about the station. That's worth following up, obviously. I mean, it's in the minutes from the previous meeting, but it might have been forgotten in all the.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's put that one on there. So yeah, that's the Maidenhead railway station. After the revamp, there's no pick up and drop off point down there. That's been a complete disaster, and people are parking down Brentford Road and all over the place, dropping people off. So yeah, if you can make a note of that one, Lawrence, I think we need to look at that and have look at it as a safe drop-off pickup point. You know, kind of people parking on double yellow lines and holding up traffic.
Sure thing, Chair.
Thank you.
So can you turn on your mic, please?
Is it still on there? Yeah, still on there. We mentioned about the town centre manager mentioned about the library having its 50th anniversary. Looking ahead to next year, of course, it's the 50th anniversary of the Royal Borough of Windsor Maidenhead being coming into being. So that's obviously something to look at, possibly on a wider scale. The fact that it's on April the 1st, it'd be the 50th anniversary of the actual creation of the Royal Borough of Windsor Maidenhead from, I think there's 5 different local authorities before, including Cookham Rural District and Maidenhead Borough and all the rest from this end. So there aren't many people left from that era, so it might be worth looking at some sort of celebration on that. Not so much just at the moment, but you know, looking at it's what 10 months away, looking at something to happen then, just to mark the occasion, as it were, because it's a shame to let it go past without marking the occasion.
It's a good idea. Okay. The 50th RBWM celebration. Anyone else? Adam?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I've got a few. I won't go through everything now, but yeah, one thing that I think would be really useful, and in fact, yeah, I've had a conversation with the organisation, and they're happy to do this. So, as you're probably aware, the the Maidenhead Neighbourhood Forum relatively recently been designated as a proper neighbourhood forum for bringing forward a neighbourhood plan. Yeah, their sort of work has now started in earnest. They've had some really good engagement events. It'd be good at some point later in the year, perhaps, to invite them over to a town forum to present a progress report and be able to sort of share the work that's going on with the wider community, I think.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll contact the chair of that. I think, yeah, well, one of my first meetings I had when I was chairman back in 2019 was inviting the Maidenhead Forum, and they've had a tough old slog trying to get this designated status. And it's important, I think, that residents understand what the Neighbourhood Forum is about and what they have the power and ability to do. So I'll invite them on. Hopefully, they can get a little presentation for us. Thank you.
Maybe give you one other point.
One more, certainly. Yes.
I'm flowing here. Yeah, this is maybe to look at specifically, well, the Biodiversity Action Plan, which was adopted towards the end of last year, I think, and well, with a specific focus, maybe at looking at urban biodiversity in the sort of urban areas, and so maybe have some kind of discussion on that, and maybe also particularly there's a lot of people who are quite interested in particular in like management of urban trees, and how the tree team work, what their role is. So I think that would be quite an interesting topic.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Okay, thank you. Councillor Shaw.
Thanks. I was thinking, as we are very quickly approaching the 50th year anniversary of the library, whether it would be good to learn more about what the plans are for the library for the next 50 years, maybe, or even what the plans for other libraries to get them to that same anniversary future.
Mm-hmm. That's a good idea, and perhaps we could get officers down from the libraries team or the lead member, perhaps, and get some info on that. That's a good idea. Okay, thank you. Councillor Kashmir Singh.
Thank you, Chair. Coming back to the inadequate parking at the train station for disabled bays. is there any plans to increase that? And also for the severely disabled, which I've had inquiries from our residents in Riverside, is the distance from where they actually park their cars to the ticket office. And some people are using trains to walk there, or 2 walking sticks. It's next to impossible for them to actually get to the train station from the disabled bay itself. In the past, you could park almost by the ticket office itself. Is there any reason why all that area has been paved? And perhaps going forward, we can use that space for disabled vehicles to park further up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we could perhaps have that discussion when we bring the railway station, the pick-up drop-off conversation. We could probably incorporate that with it. Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Yes, one point that was not covered from the last minutes was the parking around Homanley, so the mosque.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that wasn't covered. So I know there was talk about a crossing to the town, but at the moment I know they're struggling, particularly on prayer days and any events out there thereof. So that's something we should be looking at, really.
It's a good idea. We still had Ian here. We could have. Ian's gone. We could have pulled him up on that now. Yeah, that's a good idea. A4 crossing. That's in my ward as well. That does come up quite often. Okay, thank you. Any more? Councillor Beaumage.
Yeah, just one other one. Yeah, I think it's worth bringing up again. It's an issue which you hear often on the doorstep that really kind of frustrates residents is when it comes to roadworks and sort of the lack of coordination in the way that they are carried out. So I know highways have a permit scheme, and it'd be interesting maybe to have a discussion at some point about how that works and whether we're leveraging that scheme as best as we could, and if there's if there is some influence the council could have. Obviously at the end of the day it's utility companies doing the work in many cases, but if we're able to have some influence in better coordination of roadworks, I think that would be a really something that could really benefit not just residents and trying to get from A to B, but also that hopefully have less congestion, lower emissions.
Yeah, that'd be good point. Yeah, I mean there's a sort of running joke at the moment, isn't there, where sort of you get the footpath done and so 2 weeks later the gas board comes and they dig it up, put a gas line in, and then you get BT or City Fibre, and by the end of the month you've got like patches all over the place, haven't you? I mean I don't know if you can manage that. I mean it could be good if we could. I mean that would probably be highways, wouldn't it? Get someone here from highways and see if you can, but it would make sense, definitely. Good idea. All right, just bring that on there. I don't think, is there any other suggestions from residents? Anyone else? No, I think that's everything then. Okay, move on to agenda item number 6, dates for future meetings. We've got the next meeting on here for 17th of July. I think, shall we keep that as it is for the 17th of July? Everyone happy with that? Yeah, good. Okay, excellent.
Just one question, Chair. Do you want this meeting in person?
Would you prefer in person? Yeah. Okay. Yep. Let's have it in person, and let's get some comms out as well for this one. Can we push it out over the RBWM?
Yeah, comms is always usually sent out like weeks in advance of town forum meeting.
Push it hard. Let's try to get it all filled up. We're all down the back there. Let's get lots of resident engagement. The thing is, officers are here, councillors are here. Let's hear what the residents have to say, and then can take some action, can't we? Yeah. Thank you. Oh. YouTube, yes, sure.
Sorry, we were having a discussion earlier on about resident engagement when they join online or when they view. Now, I know the comments were turned off on the RBWM channel a couple of years ago now because of negative comments, shall we say. But I wondered if now we could maybe relook at it to open up the comments again on this meeting in particular that's streamed, so that residents who are watching the live stream could put questions in. Obviously, it would need to be monitored, but I think that would also encourage residents to engage who maybe aren't quite at that point of coming down here or joining on to the physical streamer, who are just watching it on YouTube. I wondered if that could maybe be investigated.
I can ask, but my guess is that, as you say, there's a reason the comments are turned off, so that, you know, unflattering comments against councillors of this forum aren't uploaded. So I'll ask, but don't think it's likely, I'm afraid. If residents want to ask questions, they can obviously attend the forum both virtually or in person, but they can also, they might sometimes email questions, which they can be forwarded on to officers or even the chair if it relates to this forum. So so
let's investigate it.
Yeah.
Let's investigate it. That's the thing is, when I open the door, that's the way to do it. Yeah. Get the residents there, let them put the comments on there, and you'll get a few who will have to go on there to have a proper us on a Friday night. But you'll get a lot of good feedback from there, and then we can action that feedback.
I'll investigate, but can't make a promise it would.
Whilst it's live streaming, and then turn it off. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense, or?
I know what you mean, but whether YouTube can do that, I don't know. Whether it's restricting comments just live stream and then off once it's uploaded. So
yeah, let's see what we can do. Let's look into that. It's a fair comment, it's a fair suggestion. Councillor Beaumont, did you have a?
Yeah, no, it was just a kind of, just thinking about that, trying to get more public engagement. And I guess, when it comes to the town forum, it definitely should be one where it's, I feel anyway, it should be resident led. I mean, I remember when, maybe 10, 12 years ago, I went to a town forum and we were all, at that point, we were all sitting around one table, officers, councillors. I was there, you'd stick your hand up, ask a question. It felt a lot more cohesive and inclusive. So even the way we sort of arrange ourselves in the room and looking at good feng shui. But I mean, I think it would be good to to be able to make sure that residents feel that they're part of the forum when they come. And likewise, if you can, you're talking about giving the Zoom link to anyone who asks for it. But I think making sure, it may be that a resident would quite like to maybe take part, but they don't have a specific question in mind at that time, and they might not ask for the link because they don't really know what they're going to say, but actually they may then, be watching on YouTube and wish they could participate. So maybe, to sort of really, push the ability to engage people in that hybrid manner as well, and get try and push the fact that you just join, and if you have nothing to say in the end, that's fine. And if you have something you'd like to say, then equally that's great.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea. Anybody else? Any questions?
I just wanted to say that the resident
yes, sir.
Do you mind if you go up to them? Excuse me.
I think comments should be on to hear the bad comments as well as the good comments. If you're open and transparent, then I think the public will engage more.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. And some people just watch for the bad comments.
Bad comments are good.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah. It's good. It's data, isn't it? Like Robin was saying. Thing is, you can't pay for data like that. I mean, it's like we got something. I was looking at something the other day about the grass cutting and the verge cutting, and there's lots of debate about keeping the grass long, keeping it short, picking the litter up first, picking it up afterwards, and all that data. I'm just scooping all the data up and sticking in an email and speaking to officers and saying, guys, this is all the information I'm getting, and it's all coming for free online. And if we can affect change through that that bit of negative data and information, that's what the council's there for. That's what the business of the council is to do, isn't it? Serve the residents. So that's, yeah, thank you very much. Cheers for that. Was there any more suggestions from anyone else? No, thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you. That's really appreciated that. I think that's been a good first meeting. Welcome to the council, to all the new members that have joined, and thank you very much to the residents for your input. That concludes the meeting. Thank you. Cheers, Lauren.
Thank you.
Thank you.